I'm
Are you
recording now.
recording? Oh, you're recording now? Okay, good. This presentation was first a couple years ago worked on by me and Shiloh, and it's since been PDCA'd for the hell out of it. And I worked on it with Nick and Lindsay for a number of weeks. And what this class is, so everyone's what they understand, it's an introduction to Microsoft Project Scheduler for new employees. So this is gonna basically go over the basics of the program, you know, little tips and tricks at the end. So it's not gonna get real in-depth, but it should give a new employee the fundamentals so that training can start. So as long as that's clear. All right, so, uh-oh. Why is this going? Okay, so what is Microsoft Project? So it's a scheduling tool to help you plan your work for the life of the project. It's nothing more than that. It's a simple software tool. There are a lot of scheduling tools out there. Walters & Wolf uses Microsoft Project, which can easily be sent to other customers, and they can import it into their other scheduling systems. One thing to remember about Microsoft Project is you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So it's only as good as the information that you put into it. Most important element of your schedule is maintaining the correct logic. And logic is a set of principles underlining the arrangement of elements to perform a specific task. So as an example of that, if A, then B. So if you have A, you must therefore have B. So an example, if A is Steve Watt's valiant but failed attempt to prove poison killed rock and roll, then you obviously have B, which is Jerry's vindication and triumph over proving that poison did not kill rock and roll.
Word.
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 Okay, so let's go through some basics. Some basic introductions and some definitions. So what is a baseline? Baseline are dates and snapshots of your original plan. This allows you to track overages in time from original plan and durations. What is critical path? Critical path is the longest distance between the start and finish of your project, including all the tasks and their duration. Critical path is always linked to the furthest date in your project. By the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to shout them out if you need something clarified during the presentation.
Paul, I was just going to ask, can you make this full screen, the presentation?
Yep.
Paul, if you maximize and then push the play button up there, it'll go from slide to slide.
Where, up here?
Sorry, left, all the way over to the left side. There's to the right.
Which side? This side?
No, the left side. There's a play button up there. It'll start the whole presentation. Yeah, there you go.
Oh shoot, that's over my other screen.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you just go back to where you were.
Well, hold on. I can just go to my other screen.
Perfect.
Do you see it?
Yeah, and if you hit space bar, it'll go to the next slide.
Space bar? Yeah. Didn't work.
Maybe mouse click.
Just arrow. An arrow works too.
I can't see it on my other screen though. Let me see.
Oh, bottom left. Oh, there you go.
Does it work? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to go through this example again? I think Jerry got that one.
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So what is a critical path? I'll repeat that one. The longest distance between the start and finish of your project, including all tasks and their durations. Critical path is always linked to the furthest date in your job. So to give you an example, now I can't get to my, hold on. Give you an example of what a critical path is. Critical path in a schedule. I can't do this with you guys on there.
Just go ahead and hit escape. You're gonna have to do it from the other view. It's okay. I didn't realize you had.
Yeah, I got two screens. So do I got to bring everything over here?
No, just.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. As an example, the critical path on your job in the Microsoft project schedule are always defaults to red. So you can change that color if you want, but the default is red. Anything in red is the critical path on your project, and you can follow that down through your project, and you'll notice that it is the furthest date out on my job, which is 5/27. Okay. Now, what are the 4 types of links? So Walters and Wolf uses these one link primarily, which is the default, which is the finish to start relationship. And what that is that's the logic relationship where a successor activity cannot start until a predecessor has finished. There is a finish type of link, that logic relationship where a successor activity cannot finish until a predecessor has finished. There is a start to finish, which is a logic relationship where a successor activity cannot finish until a predecessor has started. There's also a start, which is a logic relationship where a successor activity cannot start until a predecessor has also started. Just to give you an overview of the Microsoft project toolbar, it is a web-based application. So it's you can see it here where you have menu bars, just like you'll see on other programs. You can toggle through these different menu options and items, and it can take you to different parts of the project. You can change your view from here. You can go to a project view, you can go to reporting view, and so on. One of the things you'll notice in a project schedule is you may see this little red guy over here. What that indicates is that is when a task is over allocated to a single source. Walters and Wolf doesn't do a lot of resourcing, manpower resourcing with our projects, but that does give you an indication that something is overloaded and over allocated for manpower. This link here, as you see it throughout the project, and I'll give examples of this as I go along. This link right here will take you to a Swiss, which is an instructional sheet, to show you exactly how to do the task that's currently on. This little notation right here is exactly that. It's a note. And I'll explain the notes as I go. So, some more basics. What is a lag? A lag is a separation between 2 tasks that are linked. Positive lags push dates to the right, negative lags push dates to the left. What are predecessors and successors? Predecessors are tasks that occur prior to any given task. A successor are tasks that take place after any given task. What is a duration? A duration is how long a task will last. Shop durations are indicated on the production schedule, and field durations are derived from a GC schedule. So as an example of a production schedule, I should have done this before. It's not allowing me to grab it. Sorry, I had this all on my other screen. Nick, you screwed me up. Okay, here we have an example of a production schedule which is produced by Steve Watts and Steve Larson on a weekly basis. It shows an update of all of the jobs, the time that they start in the shop, and the time that they finish in the field. And in these production schedules, you have a matrix that I'll show you later on how it correlates to all of the other tasks and dates in your schedule. So what is a project checklist? A project checklist is a project checklist is a checklist to understand scope, buyouts, specs, and the schedule that was given from your contractor. So to give you an idea of a checklist, this is the checklist that you go over with sales, and it highlights all of your engineering work. It'll go through all the different things that you will know. This is one of the key components to building your schedule. This will go over all the engineering aspects of it. It'll ask questions. Do you have the most current structural drawings? These documents typically contain links to those documents. There are questions that this asks, yes, no, and don't know. This will help you as you go to build your schedule. You will know, for example, if you're asking yourself the question, do I have a highlighted scope of work? Question's either yes or no. On this job, it's no. Jumpstart, move drawings to J drive. That's either a yes or no question. And here, we just don't know because at this time, it wasn't ready. Project management questions. Is there a summary green sheet? So going through this, if you go through this list, this will show you all the different areas that are also included in your schedule when the schedule is broken down from top to bottom. And so these things right here will help you build your schedule, which I'll go over later on. Okay, so what is the production schedule and why is it important? The production schedule, again, is what I had up here, lists all the areas. I keep going to the other screen. So in a production schedule, what you'll notice is you've got one of the most important tabs is your takeoff matrix. In your schedule, as you go and build your schedule, you will find, so if you go down and you find your project name, and let's just say it's Samaritan Court MOB, you will see that you will see a date and the person responsible for your glass takeoff, your doors, all of your brake shapes and steel. It starts off all the way beginning from the IDs and drafting, your model, your pallet schedule, your metal takeoff. This will help you build your schedule, and you can note these dates on your schedule. Resources. We have resources that we allocate to all of the different tasks in our job. Every task is more likely going to have a resource. Outside resources are usually defaulted to a PM because we are the ones responsible for tracking them and following them. So what are resources and why does Wolters Wolf use them? These are departments responsible for a given task. These help establish ownership and accountability. An example of this would be drafting. So to give you an example of how that looks on a schedule. For example, resource names here. So we have, so here I have prepared door hardware schedule. So that right there, it's the resource name is purchasing and doors. That means there's two different departments that'll follow that through to completion. That is the purchasing department, which has to purchase the materials for the doors. And then there's the door department, which is going to be responsible for fabricating the doors. Another example is IDs created for drafting. The resource allocated to that would be drafting. Okay, what are the particular resources that Wolters Wolf uses? We use, the resources that we use are dies, doors, drafting, fabs, field, jumpstart, PM, purchasing doors, and shop. And you can combine these if you want. For example, as a project manager, if you want to make sure that you're also tracking the process of the dies, you can put dies down and then project management so that it'll kind of give you kind of a little heads up on to track those dies more closely. Carrying on with resources, how are the shop and field resources requirements determined? Shop and field dates are dependent on the GC schedule. So your GC schedule will give you a date on when you're going to start the job. Also with this information, you're going to get from management the shop start dates that are correlated to the overall production schedule. So again, back to that production schedule, the importance of this. Sorry about that. I shouldn't have moved it. So in this production schedule, what this relates to is you have a list of jobs and then you have a list of dates. So the management team, if your customer gives you a date in the field of December 1st, and yet you've got a 4-week time for the shop, you think you may want to start sometime in November, late October. However, if there's another job in your time slot, that's what the management has to do is they look at the overall company responsibilities for the shop and the production schedule, and then you will fit into that production schedule. So that particular date will be provided to you directly from management, and they will always work with you to make sure that it correlates to your field start. That could mean you're feeding hand to mouth, which we don't like to do, meaning they're producing units, it's going straight to the field, or we may have to store them for a period of time. This could be an extended period of time, or it could be a short period of time. Okay, getting started. What do I need to build a schedule? So the first thing you need to do is you will have a kickoff meeting with the sales team, and in there you will be walking through the checklist that I showed you earlier, and you'll be walking through all of those items, and you will be trying to get every answer that you can for every item that's going to be on that checklist. What information is required to build a schedule? You'll need your production schedule dates from the production schedule I just showed. You need a project checklist completed with and know your full scope. How do I determine the project start date? This is typically the date your customer provides in a letter of intent or notice to proceed. I'll show you that in a second when I go over the schedule. Access the first task on your schedule and change the date. So to do that, on every schedule and every template, this first line right here will be highlighted, and it'll say notice to proceed, receive letter of intent. This is the one time that you go in here and you change this date manually. This will start your kickoff, and it will be the starting point of your project. This little icon over here means that this date is constrained, which means that it does not start any earlier than. And it's really just, it's the only time on your schedule that you should have a constrained date. Where do I go on the server to find the template? So to get on the server, how you find that is if you open up Microsoft Project, which I can't seem to find. Please hold. Oh, it's causing me some real problems when I switch my screens. Everything's jumping over to the other screen. Okay, so when you have Microsoft Project open, you want to go to File, New. You want to click on Shared. Inside Shared, you will see these different folders. You will want to go to the Walters and Wolf Project templates. In there, you will find a number of different schedule templates that we use. The ones that are used primarily for us in the glass company will be unitized curtain wall with test mockup, unitized curtain wall with visual and test mockup, visual, unitized curtain wall, visual mockup, and then you'll have unitized curtain wall. Click on one of those, and the schedule should open with nothing on it. Okay. Okay, that just completely shut down. All right. Hold on. It's the worst presentation ever. Hold on.
This is not the worst presentation ever, Paul.
We love you, Paul.
I can't. Oh, I never should have switched screens. Why did I do that?
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
think that's my
It's
fault.
okay. Things happen. New people need to know that everything doesn't work perfectly all the time.
Exactly, especially the presenter. Okay, I will just keep this one open and I won't close it again. Okay, so we found out where to go get those, sort of. All right, building your schedule. Choose the appropriate template for your project scope. We went through that. There is a unitized curtain wall with test mockup, with visual and test mockup, and with visual mockup. All new scope items that apply to your schedule checklist will be added. You will link all the tasks. Check the shop and field start date to get against your production schedule. Submit your schedule to the GC in coordination and comments, and then you will save the baseline. So those are the basic steps that you'll go through. Once I go over and teach you how to build a schedule from scratch, these are kind of the logical steps that you'll take to do that. Once you have a schedule and you've built it and you've saved it, you're going to update your schedule. A couple of key points in updating your schedule is remember updating your schedule as changes occurs so it is as close to reality as possible. This will happen at the very least on a weekly basis. You may want to do this, have your schedule open every day. I like to keep a copy of it open on my desktop so I can always refer to it and keep dates fresh in my mind, and also just get a quick look every day and a reminder about what's coming up. Remember, when you're inputting the dates, let the logic change the dates that follow in your successors. Don't manually change the dates. As you make the changes, check back on your production schedule dates to make sure that they have changed. For example, metal takeoff, glass, and so forth. As an example, the key dates that you'll see on the production schedule, what I like to do as a little tip, I like to highlight in red on my schedule all of those dates that reflect back to the rest of the departments that you're working with. So these dates all correlate to the production schedule. So the shop drawing date, I like to highlight it in red, and then I like to keep a note section that shows me the date that the production schedule is keeping. Sometimes when you're updating your schedule, you could make changes up above, and if you're not careful, this date can change, and you might not be able to notice it right off the bat. If you didn't memorize that this was 3/19 and you're going through your schedule and you realize changes you made above, for example, if I made a change in this line item, which is driving that, you might change that to 190 days. Well, that's going to most certainly change this date. If you don't notice that, you're not going to be in compliance with your production schedule, dates that the managers are working towards. So if you go to import your schedule later onto the portal, that date will be wrong. I like to keep these notes here. This note is just telling me that the start date should always be 3/19. I like to maintain those notes throughout the key indicators in the production schedule, which would be prepared door and hardware schedule. Again, I know it should always be 9/7. These other dates, IDs created from drafting, check model, glass takeoff, stock length metal takeoff. All of these, I have notes that will tell me exactly what those dates need to be. Anytime these changes, I can quickly glance over and see if anything else has changed. Moving along, save and date, save and export to the portal. I'll show you that on the next slide. Submit your schedule to the GC. This will vary depending upon your project and the expectations of your GC. Some GCs might not want your schedule to be sent out every week. You want to just make sure that you understand the expectations of your customer and then send it to them when they need it and when they would like to see it. At very least, you might want to send it at least once a week. But if they say, hey, send it to me once a month, then just send it to them once a month. It's really driven by the customer, but you will always have a copy of it internally, so you can always reference that. So when you export to the portal, on the main menu here, you will go to, you are in tasks. You will go to view macros. You will click on view macros. You'll get a pop-up screen that says export to portal. It's going to ask you export the data to the portal. You're going to say yes. And then you're going to enter your job number. And when you hit OK, everything that you imported in your schedule will go to the manager and the PT tracker, and that should again correlate back to this production schedule. So dates on my schedule that I was looking at aren't even in here. That's great. So if your schedule is ISI phase 2, these dates in here, this 12/8 should be 12/8 on your schedule. Pallet schedule should be 1/11. Just make sure that when you export your portal, your schedule into the portal, before you do that, all of these dates correlate to this master schedule. Few tips and tricks. If you add scope or tasks, you need to make sure that you save those items also with the baseline. If you add a new task, make sure that you follow the task all the way through your project, and make sure that, for example, if you're adding a new scope of glass, you want to make sure that you're starting at the top and work your way down from procuring samples, submitting samples, approving samples, ordering samples, all the way down, all the way through your project, and make sure that you follow that link all the way through to installation. Distribute the schedule internally to the project team, Jumpstart, drafting, shop, and field for their buy-in. Always do that before you send this to the customer. This will happen as soon as you do your first draft of your schedule and you think you have it complete. You want to take that schedule and you want to send it out to the rest of the team to get some feedback. So how can someone filter through by department? One way this is accomplished is you would go up here to the report. Sorry, view. Click on the view tab in the main menu bar. You're going to go over here to filter. Hit the drop down. If you want to use a resource, you want to filter by resource, you can say, I have had customers ask me they want just my my material production section of my schedule. So if you want to filter just by that, you can click here, you click purchasing. So any tab that has a purchasing on it, this is just a very condensed schedule. They wanted to match up all of these production dates that I have to their master schedule. This way I'm not sending them a whole 400-page or 400-line item schedule and just sending them only the items they need. So another tip is how you determine the driving predecessors when your task has multiple predecessors in it. So for example, when you're building a schedule and you have an item such as, let's go into shop fabrication. Shop fabrication has many items that are linked to it. It's got all these items here. If you want to find out what is the driving factor of this, you would go to the main menu, you go to the task tab. If you hit inspect, you're already highlighted on the task that you want to inspect. You hit inspect and you hit inspect task. It'll bring up the main predecessors that are driving this particular task. That way you don't have to try to go back and look at, because if you just glance at this table down here, there's no lags. Everything is a finish to start relationship. And yet you're trying to find out these 10 or 11 different items, and how do I go back and find out the main drivers? So it's these two predecessors right here. It's 124 extrude metal and it's 126 produced glass. Moving on, what reasons do you come across to push items on your schedule? There could be a number of reasons. There could be an internal reason. You could have some internal resource issues. It could be the shop drawings are late. It could be that we're over-resourced. We have, could be a whole slew of reasons internally. Those we try to keep amongst ourselves as best we can and try not to have that influence anything for our customer, but things do happen. You'll have GC reasons. They're not ready for us on site. They push their schedule. There's a whole host of other reasons. Could be vendor delays, weather, acts of God, such as this coronavirus we're dealing with now. And that brings us to the end of the presentation before we go on and build an actual schedule. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for that inspection tip, because I didn't know that. And
Actually,
that will save me a lot of time.
Yeah, that was something when we did a dry run, and I never did a dry run before when we were doing presentations. It was just a small group. Lisa and Rudy and Oscar and a few other people were in there. It was the biggest help ever, because you always go into these things with your own pool of knowledge, but when you get other people jumping in and helping out and say, hey, I found this, I found that, it was incredible, because I didn't know that was on this either. I've never used it before. Now I use it every week.
Nice.
I think it was Oscar's the one that found that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was Oscar. But yeah,
Little
it
brainy
was pretty amazing.
Stanford.
Classic Oscar.
Hey, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Remember, you know how I'm muted, huh? Am I muted?
No, I can hear you.
You know how when Brad was doing his presentation and he had that board up where we could ask, like put stuff on the screen? What if when we do these presentations, we had a place where when people had questions, they could just type it up there, and then at the end, you can go through the questions.
That's the Jamboard. I don't know if everybody on here has been in one of those meetings,
Oh,
but it's the Google Jamboard.
Oh, is that what it? Yeah, I didn't see anything up here. Even I don't even see the chat.
Yeah, and maybe that's something we can just always say, let's open up the chat, and if you have questions, send it out to everyone. Then you kind of have the list over there, and then this training group can take that list at the end and add it in or something. I don't know.
Yeah, keep in mind, this was really designed to be an introduction to the software, because after if there was a new employee and they didn't know anything about scheduling or Microsoft Project, that's kind of how we were trying to visualize this, me, Nick, and Lindsay. And then so after this, once you go and you build a schedule with somebody, I mean, I'd walk through every single one of these and we have examples on all of it.
Yeah.
But this is really just kind of giving an overall understanding of what they're about to get into.
no, this is super
They
helpful.
may turn around and run.
Because, yeah, I'm building a schedule right now for the parking garage, and I was kind of walking through it as you were walking us through it and doing some of the steps. But this was super helpful because this is something I'm not good at all. So, yeah, this is cool. Is this going to be somewhere we could look at it if I need to?
The presentation. Yeah, it's in.
I can get you the presentation, Travis.
Yeah.
I know where it's at. And plus, I think it'll be posted on the portal soon.
Yeah.
No, I did. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, that inspect button is huge.
Oh yeah. That was probably the best tip I've learned recently.
So, Paul, I had a question for you before you start kind of actually, because you're going to actually work through something in project right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before you do that, I was curious, you mentioned something about making sure that we stay in compliance with the production schedule.
Right.
And my question is, let's say something happens, like a material procurement issue or something, so that we can no longer keep to the production schedule. What do we do then?
If you can adhere to the production schedule, you mean as you're changing your dates in your schedule, or if something else happens?
Well, so let's say something happens to delay us. I'm updating the schedule and I realize, okay, this task stretched. I can't keep to the production schedule anymore. I can no longer hit the shop dates or the field dates. How would a PM handle that?
Well, you first have to go talk to Chris Green and Bobby to make sure you get their feedback, what does the shop and the field. Then you have them just change the production schedule.
I thought, didn't we talk a little bit about maybe doing a phase 2 of this, of when you have schedule changes or big impacts, a GC change or a material change? This was just introduction to the scheduling.
Yeah, it
right?
was. Yeah, this is strictly introduction to a new employee.
Yeah.
Just so that they can actually get a feel for it. But I mean, to specifically address Rudy's question, if I did everything I know possibly how to do, like for example, if you can't meet your production schedule because, I mean, let's say the biggest driver, let's see, is usually always stock length metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's, you've got 15 weeks in your schedule, I mean, realistically, I would first call Heather and say, hey, I'm carrying 15 weeks. What is Western? What do they anticipate for my job, my amount of poundage? And so you see where you can save. If she says, no, they're operating on a 10-week cycle, you save 5 weeks right there.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is go back and look at some of my durations. Am I by default carrying too much? And then I'd go talk to the various people before I would ever try to move the shop. And if you've exhausted those opportunities, then I'd go straight to management.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Yeah, no, that was. You know, you
Yeah.
mentioned if we can't comply, so I was curious what happens if we can't.
Okay.
So perfect.
And I'm sorry, I misunderstood Rudy's question. I thought you meant like after the fact. How do you go in and change stuff? Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It's all good.
So are there any other questions?
So you'll do our schedules for us when we need new schedules?
Yeah, I'll do
Oh,
everybody's schedule. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here.
Nice. Pay you on the side.
Yeah.
Like doing my homework. Cool. Good
Hey,
job,
did-
Paul.
Did a great job, Paul.
Yeah, that whole flipping the screen thing, that got me a little off kilter. I could not. It wasn't grabbing it. I couldn't switch it over.
Yeah, we're doing a computer like basics 101. You can just join that.
Oh, I will. I'll join that one. I know working up in PowerPoint to know how to do that. I mean, once I got it, but it just wouldn't grab all the time. And oh well, presenting's not my forte.
You did great, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
You did good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess that's it.
Yep.
Great.
Guess it's great.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Nick and Lindsay for helping me on this. This was I couldn't have done it without them. That's for sure.
Of course. Thanks,
Good,
Paul.
Paul.
to
Good
work
job.
with.
Thanks,
Okay.
Paul.
All right,
Bye.
Paul,
See
thank
ya.
you.
Yes.
Libbity bibbity.
Line.
All right.
Okay, bye.
See you later.